Lamed Daled. The line starts with the word he. And the principle that we're talking about is the Inyan HaTorah in its root state, in its essential state, is higher than mitzvahs. And that is exposing to us a totally novel perception that Seichel, Chochmah, is superior to Rotz. In the sense that Chochmah is that which is an essential element in Etzem itself, as we discussed yesterday and the time before. The principle in this is, as I said, we're going to have the mashal from Nefesh HaOdam, which we started yesterday. And for greater clarity, we'll go to a little bit of a basic principle. The Rambam tells us that the foundation of Chochmah, foundation of all foundations, is to know that there's a first being. So, we can readily, so to speak, understand the principle that to know that this is in Avodas Hashem, to know there's a first being, that is a fundamental principle. Avodas Hashem. But the Rambam says much more than that. Says that this is the principle. It's how you say this. It's a foundation for all foundations, and it is the basis of Chochmah. What is so special in this concept that there is a first being? Why can there be, as we pointed out many times, the multiplicity of existence, the infinite multiplicity of existence, and not based on the first being? This is how the world perceives everything. There's enormous multiplicity. How did this cell phone get invented? Get to be? Because necessity, development, whatever it is, technology allowed for it, and that's how it got born. It's nothing. It's not representing of any kind of a first being. Just to make sure, we shouldn't misunderstand. We do not agree with that. What is the contribution of this first being? The contribution of first being is that everything that exists has an aspect of reality. Like the Rambam says, Amitis himotzei nimtze kol hanimtzoi. From the truth of his being, everything came to be. There's a reality element. Things that occur by accident, unintended. Oh, we found this. Oh, we found this. This is not real. It doesn't have a real presence. Presence means that it has this intent in it. That intent, as we shall discuss a little further now, and as we discussed yesterday, is identified, if we talk in terms of multiplicity, identified by Chochmah, by Seichel. Without Seichel, there is no identification of anything. And I was thinking, listening over yesterday's class, I was thinking that I would try and present it with a very simple illustration that we can all relate to. And that good old table. So we all know that a table consists of a board and 4 legs. and it's made to stand firmly and so forth. Now, from a worldly perception, a table is a board. But once you have a board, then you have to have something supporting it. So you make legs. But the initial concept of a table is a board. But then, as we pointed out many times, what is the actual root of the whole concept of a table? Is a table born out of necessity? Or is there a human element in it? Is it born something which is rooted in nefesh ha'odam? And we explained many times that a table is rooted in nefesh ha'odam. This is the table, as a matter of fact, represents royalty. In Halacha, in the Mishkan, there was a table that says Malchus, Keser Malchus. In the human being, there is an element of royalty. And in this element of royalty, what is a table? A table for the human being is that there's something there that is at his service. Like, okay, I need this, I don't have to hold it in my hand. It stands there and waits for me. Now, and this concept of a table, even though what we're actually using is, so to speak, the board, but it's not just a board. In the initial principle of a table, it has to be both the usable part and it has to be standing there independent. I don't have to hold the table. You could conceivably have a table, a board sitting on your lap. No, but then that's not a table. You're holding it. It has to be standing there independently. This is the concept of a royalty, that he spreads all over, and even outside of himself is also recognizable his presence. So that this table stands independent of him, and it stands for him, and it comes from him, from his oil, from his royal spirit. And this royal spirit is represented not just in the board, but in the fact that it stands firmly and solidly by itself and in the right place. Now, going back to what we've been discussing here, the initial concept of a table, you can say, that which I can use for whatever it is. But really, in the initial concept of a table is included all of these details. And we haven't really identified all the details. These details, yes, there is a human spirit and so forth, but the reason that they exist is because of the chokhmah that's in the human spirit. This is what internally to the human being identifies what the human being is. This is the principle that the sikhli element, this is a principle in the human being. Is this window open? Can we open it? Do you mind?
Open the front door.
Huh?
Open the front door.
Okay, this will probably be enough. Just. Oh, thank you. Okay. It was an odd statement, and this is something which we struggled yesterday, to say that by knowing it, that's what makes it be. By knowing it, that's what makes it be. Because knowing it means that there is a point to it. And something that exists without a point, without a a first being that doesn't exist. Without a first being, nothing. There's no significance to any existence. And as we point out, infinity itself is also representative of a first being. These are difficult concepts, but nevertheless, it behooves us to give it a little bit of a try, of a sense that, as I said, in the infinity of space is also not merely nothingness. No, it is a provision for space. And as evidence from the fact that we always point out that in our home, like with this room, clearly this is a mocha made specifically for setting up, whatever you set up in here. This place that we are using it in such comfort is merely a demarcation of the open space. Does the open space include this possibility, or it doesn't? The answer is absolutely it includes it. Yes.
I'm not sure I'm getting the point with the muscle of the table. Making the point that the fact that the table has all these details is because the person is a sikh. Somehow, in other words, I'm missing the connection between the details of the table and the Inyan that we learned yesterday, that inherently the person is a nefesh sikh.
The table, as I said just now, represents the royal aspect of the world. What's the royal aspect?
He spreads out even when he's not.
And this spreading out, okay, as I said, we use the board, but included in that is the legs, even though you don't even pay attention to it. Why the legs? Because if it does not stand independently, and I have to hold it up, then I haven't expressed my royal aspect. You understand what I'm saying? Because, like we say all the time, the animals also have their turf, but they're holding it with by their gill, by their power.
Understood.
Okay. That element, this reality is due to the inherent human intelligence. That intelligence is not what identifies it externally. This is what the human, as I said, the royal aspect. The royal aspect demands that it has everything. That demand is due to its consciousness that this is royal. This is the seichel element. You could have it, look at it the opposite way, the world looks at it. Oh, I found it, it's comfortable. It also kind of reveals a royal aspect. That's not royal. This is the way the animals also enjoy comfort, quote unquote. It's not pre-identified. The meaning of seichel, we always speak of seichel, chochmah is beetle. Beetle means, if I know the truth exists, that's sufficient for me. Midas, I have to experience it. Seichel doesn't need to experience anything. I know that there is a truth, that already puts me on the map, that already gives me life. All right, So I said we are in the middle of the page, Lamed Daled. The line begins, He bechinas kedushas ha'atzmos ein sof. It says that this inyan of Torah, this is quote unquote the special kedusha that is by Hashem, that we have the kedusha due to the mitzvahs that are nimshach to us. But the kedushas of Torah, that is by the mitzvahs. That's a higher top of kedusha. The sourcing to Shulamayim Kedushaschem.
Hey, Paltiel, did you say that all the inyanim of the nefesh, prior to there being inyanim of the nefesh, is the knowledge of these inyanim?
In the nefesh.
And this is higher than these inyanim being in
This is what makes them real inyanim. This is the principle that, as we're going to see now, the nefesh Adam is nefesh sichlis. Sichlis means that it's aware of everything that it is. And why? And what's this awareness? This awareness is due to his connection to the Moshe Rishon, and there is a reality behind and that is the sense. And this is why the principle of Rambam says, this is the beginning of Torah. The Torah begins with that. It says, you want to know anything? First know that there is a creator. Without that, you can study the whole universe and come up with nothing.
What's this piece, the fact that it's created, connected to the Maser Rishon, what's the...
That gives it a presence. That gives it a real presence.
That's how any of these things can be identified in the first place.
That's why there is a point and you study. What is this? What is this? What is this? How? Because each thing has a place, has a real reality, a real value. If you study, if existence is only, how's it used, what's its utility, then you're looking at it entirely from Chitzenius. There's no reality to it. Like I said, this is a simple illustration. 1 and 1 is 2 ones. Is that a seichel? Is that a discovery? Is that a concept? There's no knowledge involved in this. 2 is knowledge. Why? And where does 2 comes from? Because there is a motivation. Because everything comes from one source. Therefore, there is such a thing as 2. There's a relationship between these 2 ones. And there are 2. What makes it 2?
And the Chachma aspect is, the Chachma aspect is the fact that there is that everything comes from everything comes from the first being. In other words, the Etzem has the whole expanse, and everything.
Yeah, this means everything comes. This is aura. This is the external Chachma. We're saying that within the Etzem itself there is Chachma. That Chochmah is what makes Etzem, I said, makes Chetzem into Etzem. Makes the Etzem into an Etzem. That is a drastic word to say, but you have to understand it very, subtly. What makes a human being a human being? Not that he functions as a human being. He is a human being. And what does that mean? That everything is important to him. Every act of every moment of his life is an eternity. Okay, Veho'inyanhu. Didn't set the time. Okay. Veho'inyanhu, Veho'inyan yuvam. So the Rebbe says that this union can be understood al derech moshel, on the basis of a moshel, b'odom lamato, a human being here below. Nefesh nikras nefesh asichlis, that the nefesh is called nefesh asichlis. What does it mean? The intelligent nefesh. Move on. Now this term seems to be contrary to the intuitive idea that we have. In the movement, we don't understand. Is it now that the seichel is only one of the koichas hanefesh, one of the capabilities of the nefesh? V'lomo yikore hanefesh atzmo. Why then should the nefesh itself be called? The nefesh itself, which is shumushleles migeder koichos, that is completely devoid of the gather of the principle of koichos. Nefesh is not koich. Nefesh is an atzmi. Nefesh is not a capability. Nefesh is a reality. And I want to explain, and there's this term for a moment. The nefesh gives life to the body. But this giving life to the body is not, first of all, that's not the ikar of the nefesh. And that is not of a koyach. This is a reality itself. Koyach means something which is a function that it's able to accomplish external to itself. Nefesh is mushles migeder koyach. Why then should this nefesh, that is completely beyond the boundary or the definition of koyach, b'shem nefesh hasichlis, why should be referred to as nefesh hasichlis? As the intelligent nefesh. Intelligence is one of the koychas hanefesh. However, the principle in this is sheyesh beis madreges b'seichel, that in fact there are two very distinct madreges in seichel. Ho'alev, one level is k'mei shebo b'tam v'seichel gol, as the seichel comes and expresses itself in tam, in the reasoning, the seichel goloi, and an expressed and an identifiable seichel. The habeis, and the other one, the second thing, is kayach ha-seichel ha-hiyuli ho-atzmi. The koyach ha-seichel ha-hiyuli. Hiyuli means it's beyond potential. It's not even potential. It is the essential. Ho'atzmi, shem yuchad b'netzem hanefesh, that is one with the etzem hanefesh itself. V'al shem zeh nikro nefesh asichlis. And because of this, this is why the nefesh is called nefesh asichlis. Before we go further, which the Rebbe is going to discuss it, what makes us, what connects us, what makes us aware of the keyach ha-seichel ha-hiyuli hu-atzmi. This is a principle which we always point out. That when one understands something, and the whole concept of understanding is a phenomenal concept, phenomenal experience, and yet, despite the phenomenal thing, the overwhelming greatness of this union of understanding, we can take it in good stride. We can calmly relate to it. Oh yeah, I understand. Didn't you just now discover, didn't you just now experience a dramatic change? And we don't even relate to that. Of course I understand. And what this is representing, the phenomenon here is that this is an essential Inyan in the person to understand. Understanding is not something superimposed on a person. Yes, there is a point where I don't know and I get to know, and therefore there is a discovery process. But the discovery process is all based on an inherent ability to understand. It is not, I always point out, there's a fundamental difference between how the human being learns and how an animal, quote unquote, learns. An animal doesn't learn. An animal is trained. So to an animal, this is a dramatic change. It's unnatural. He's just trained, and therefore he acts according to a certain format. But it's not a personal thing. He is actually in a straitjacket. I mean, he was trained and until he got used to acting a certain way. A human being learns. This learning is because he inherently has the koyach haseichel ha'iyun. So whatever he learns, he identifies with it. Once it makes sense, he identifies with it. So this is the second inyan in its darge in seichel. What's called seichel yuli hu atzmi, which is, and that is miyuchad be'etzem ha'nefesh. This is miyuchad with the etzem ha'nefesh. This is not miyuchad be'etzem ha'nefesh means that this is inherent in the nefesh. This is not something that the nefesh learns, but this is something which is inherent in the nefesh itself. Ve'al shum zeh nikro nefesh hasichlis. And due to this, the presence of that seichel, of that madrege, this is why it's called nefesh hasichlis, because the nefesh possesses that level of seichel. However, v'gam zei nemuvo nadayin, but this is still not fully understandable. Does not explain it completely. Shaharei, since that gam hakoyach ha'hiyuli ho'atzmi, this koyach ha'hiyuli ho'atzmi of seichel, that too, hu rak koyach bilvad, is only a koyach, only a capability. Therefore, ukishem shekoyach ha'seichel mushu b'nefesh, just as the koyach ha'seichel is rooted in nefesh, harik moikein, so the same thing is true. Kol ha'koychas musroshim b'nefesh. All the koychas are rooted in nefesh. Just to illustrate the point, just as we said, that when one understands something, it fits in with him very, very suitably, and it relates to him, to the kind of nefesh he has. When a person walks, he also feels perfectly comfortable with it. When a person talks, he also feels comfortable with it. All the koychas are mushash in etzem nefesh. And as we pointed out many times, that just as seichel understanding, this is something which is inherent in nefesh. The principle of moving from place to place is also an inherent element in nefesh. The ability for a person to transport himself from place to place is also inherent in nefesh. All the kochas are mushas in nefesh. Evidence from the fact that a little baby a year-old baby walks. Clearly, this is not trained. This is part of the nefesh. So therefore, why then do we call it nefesh hasichlis? Call it nefesh amdaberes. Can call it whatever nefesh. Why not call it nefesh hasichlis? Ahoinyanhu. However, this will just touch on the surface. Ahoinyanhu, however, the inyan is the amitas inyan koyach haseichel ho'atzmi. Coming to identify what is seichel is. Seichel. Because that the true principle of the koyach haseichel ho'atzmi, the fact that there is a koyach haseichel, an inherent koyach haseichel, not a developed koyach haseichel, but an inherent koyach haseichel. Whole bechinas hataynog ho'atzmi shebenefesh. This is the bechina, this is the aspect of a tainuk ho'atzmi shebenefesh. Again, tainuk ho'atzmi, the essential tainuk, which we're going to leave for tomorrow in Mitzvah, just pointing out, this is not a tainuk that one enjoys from a tasty piece of food, or even from a song. It's a tainuk ho'atzmi shebenefesh. In simple terms, if we would just give it terminology, this is the tainuk ho'atzmi. This is what we observing from that is the ability to have tainuk. But this tainuk ho'atzmi is an essential tainuk. This is a tainuk that encompasses all Talmud. And with this we will interrupt Mitzvah till tomorrow.
It's like what we said. I think this is like the Tainug being what he is, or what he Hashem made.
Right. All right. This is it for this morning.